And we are live. Welcome to this playoff edition of Blue Line Icing, presented by ThunderblogSports.com, a part of the Bullpen Cart podcast feed. I, of course, am the G-Man, Jordy Cannell. Joining me on this three-man weave are two of my favorite people. First up, we got my man all the way up from Boston, Greg, the Prophet Piatelli. Greg, how are you, my friend?
Not bad, Jordy. Just gearing up for Thursday night, the only series that really matters in my life. And I'm not sure if you know, but Tuesday, which would be tomorrow as we're recording Monday night, is the ring ceremony for both the Patriots and the Red Sox at Fenway. Because I'm not sure if you knew this, but both the Patriots and Red Sox won championships, the World Series and the Super Bowl. Being
I think I saw a little kid with a sign about it.
Respective sports. Yeah, no, it's tomorrow's a huge day. We got a little because the game's at 2, ceremony starts at 1, so we got a little half day going and a little after party and booze and food and
has Gronk started drinking yet?
He probably has. He's probably gonna spike his ring or spike the baseball. I don't know. Something's gonna happen.
That's been great. Well, let's get the other guy introduced all the way from across Broad Street.
Hello.
It's my man, Jared Barnes. Jared, how are you, my friend?
Gentlemen. As Greg, I would say blow me, but it's more appropriate to be rub and tugged in Boston. So I'm going to open another beer here as I stand here live in the command center wearing my Stu Barnes assistant captain jersey. Put that one in your pipe and smoke it.
Got the A.
Jared, did you know that the Patriots won the Super Bowl as well as the Red Sox won the World Series? Or
well, I did. Okay. I mean, I know who won 6 first.
What upset you more?
Neither of them.
Okay. Fair.
Nothing. Rattle meter is not moving right now for Jared, but
we'll see.
Greg can fix that. Rattles my bones. Oh, man. Well, boys, we got ourselves the NHL playoffs starting Wednesday night. As Greg mentioned, a certain Atlantic Division series starts Thursday night, but Wednesday is the real kickoff of the playoffs. And a lot of the teams we talked about, nothing really too much changed in the last month, but what do you guys think of how the matchups shook out? Before we jump into each one, is there one in particular, aside from your two respective teams, of course, that you're really looking forward to, or the one that you're just going to stay away from?
Hey, Greg.
Yes.
Did the Flyers make the playoffs?
That'd be a big no.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're starting there.
Jared, I believe you were the one that said the Flyers were going to make the playoffs the last time we recorded, and I said no.
So let's start here, Jordy. How did our predictions shape up? Do you have them written down?
Yes. I actually think we were pretty close. You did have the Flyers making it. We all had Carolina falling out, and we were close with that. I think we all had Montreal getting in too. So flip Montreal and Carolina. I think we had Columbus getting close up there. The West was way more wacky than we thought it was. Greg had Calgary, a lot of C's in the playoffs this year. Calgary not holding on. Jared, you and I both had San Jose winning. I think actually all three of us did. I think we all had Calgary moving down into the standings. I think Jared and I had them as a 2. Greg had them as a 3. Vegas, insert around there. Minnesota was probably the big one that we all missed on. We had them missing, and Dallas not really able to turn it around, and that turned out to be wrong, of course. We traded off Nashville and Winnipeg. I think Greg and I had Nashville, and Jared had Winnipeg winning. Obviously, it came down to the last day of the season, and St. Louis made a push themselves as they lost on the tiebreaker for home ice in their series with the Jets. So we're pretty close, boys. The Islanders, though, were the one I think that we were off the most. We had them. I think we all had them as a wild card team, with the Penguins coming in at number 2, and of course the Islanders have that number 3, and the Penguins, by an overtime loss, get the 3 seed instead of the Carolina Hurricanes. So they draw the Islanders there, with Washington drawing the Hurricanes in their insane celebrations.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, it sounded like you said, I think a lot. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Jared and I were 100% right in our predictions, and you think So you therefore were wrong.
Let the record show a standing applause for Mr. Piatelli.
Jared, would you agree with my assessment?
Sir, I'm a politician by trade, so I can neither confirm nor deny that.
Nice. No, Jordy, honestly, I mean, you look at the matchups, and there are a lot of good ones, which we'll get into, and a lot of ones that are really, really top of the bill. But the two main ones that you have to look at has to be Boston, Toronto, or Vegas, San Jose.
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
I mean, those have to be the first two. Those has to be the best matchups for the first round.
Yeah, 100% agree. Those are the two that you have to tune in for every single game.
Yeah, and I think, guys, I think an underrated one, I mean, at least for me, is Johnny Ham and Cheese versus Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
That's going to be really fun. And I think the Flames, I mean, granted, who knows how that's going to shake out. I don't think Colorado has the firepower this year. But I think they're going to be in it the next couple of years. It's a young team.
Yeah, super young team. I mean, they were banged up for a little bit of that of this season. I mean, Landeskog was hurt a little bit. I mean, they were at one point 1-2-4, I think, in points when I think we hit the halfway mark around New Year's. But yeah, they had a lot of injuries defensively. They really don't shake up too well. So this could be bet the over on every game and you make $1 million. I mean, Jared, you're spot on there, though. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And they heated their way back into this thing at winning 7 of their last 10 games, really kind of just usurping over a lot of different teams, including the Wild that we talked about, who really had an ice cold finish to their season, finishing behind the Blackhawks, who at one point seemed like they might be able to make a push back. Arizona was close. Vancouver was close. But yeah, Colorado could make some noise.
It really is on paper the least physical matchup, and like you guys are saying, definitely the most scoring or highest scoring matchup. But the only issue is that it's going to be West Coast. No one's going to watch it. Lowest rating, but like you said, probably the most scoring. So will be exciting. Good call there, Jared. So hopefully your voice gets a lot of eyes on that series.
Oh yeah, I think the opposite though, in the Western Conference, the Dallas Predator series, as much fun as it might be to watch Nashville at home, that might be a pretty intense. I'm not going to say boring, but very low scoring and a lot of defense played there. Both teams with strong defense. We'll jump into it in a little bit of picks and everything, but that's certainly one that if you like low scoring, intense, potentially a lot of overtime, that could be one to really tickle your fancy there.
I mean, why wait? Let's get into it. Let's go series by series. Do you want to start in the East or the West, Jordy?
Yeah, I was going to start in the East with the Atlantic Division. So first off with the Atlantic Division and President's Trophy winners, the Tampa Bay Lightning hosting the Columbus Blue Jackets, who the last time the three of us met went for broke and nearly missed the playoffs despite adding Dzingel, Duchesne, and they still ended up making it in, but they draw the league's best, who tied the NHL all-time record with 62 wins. Guys, what are your initial thoughts coming into this? Jared, we'll start with you.
Initial thoughts, all eyes are on Tampa Bay.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not talking about the Buccaneers either. Or the Rays or the Devil Rays or whatever the fuck you want to call them. I really think, it's to look at the year that Tampa had, tying the most wins in NHL history with, I believe, the 95-96 Red Wings.
Correct.
You look at that, they're all, the phrase, it's almost too big to fail when it looks like a corporation. They got the target on it. And when it comes down to it, of the factors when you're looking at it, the game, in my opinion, this series goes 7.
Think so.
I really do. And if Bob plays a good goalie, I think Columbus could pull it out.
Okay.
So that's where I'm coming from.
All right. It's worth noting Tampa Bay did win all 3 games this season. You might not be surprising considering they won 62 and only lost 20. No, but that's a really good point. I mean, it's either going to be Columbus figures out how to hold off Tampa Bay. I feel like the first 2 games are down in Tampa, so it's going to be is really going to set the tone there. But we could see if Bob has a game in one of those two, including their second game on CNBC. I love always seeing what channels these playoff games are on. Yeah, the first one's actually on USA, but that's at least regular cable. But yeah, Bob has a pretty solid game, Jared. It's a really good point that if he holds them off, send it 1-1 back to Columbus, who knows what happens. We saw what they did with Washington last year, where they were able to come out strong against them, and obviously Washington turned it around. But if they're able to hold them off, all bets are off.
Agreed.
Greg, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so
Greg's flipping a table over there.
Yeah, I was just shutting the door so as not to disturb my roommate. No, this is going to be one of the more physical. I mean, not more physical, but this will be a physical series just because of a Tortorella team that Columbus is. Tortorella coach team, I should say. And this is a team that really knows that they literally have nothing to lose. This team was built only for the playoffs, this team being Columbus. With, as we said, they went for broke, went for it all. The interesting matchup, I think, between the two teams is the two Russian goalies facing off. You guys mentioned Bobrovsky, but Vasilevsky there for Tampa is certainly an up-and-coming young stud goaltender in the future. The big difference and the big advantage, I think, here is Columbus is going to try and be physical, try and establish that physical play. They're going to get themselves in the box, and Tampa Bay power play is virtually unstoppable.
Yeah, they can score it at will. Yeah. First in power play at nearly 28.5%. And first in the penalty kill, too. I mean, their special teams are pretty solid. 7th in goals against overall.
Yeah, and Columbus is just going to try and make it a physical series and try and really bully and just find themselves in the box. And Tampa Bay is going to take advantage of it at every step. And for me, I don't think it goes 7. I think it's an easy 5 games. Easy 5 for Tampa.
Yeah, it's worth noting, too, to Greg's point. Tampa's 29th out of 31 in the league with 779 penalty minutes. Columbus comes in at 2nd. So if they really do go after it and really try to, bully this around, it could be a quick one and done for Columbus, which a little bit of a bummer. As Greg said, this is a team built for the playoffs. I'm going to go with 6, but I still think it's Tampa's to lose. But Columbus makes some noise. It could go 7, but I'm taking Tampa Bay in 6 games.
Boys, I have to say this. All things relative, it's playoff hockey. It doesn't matter. Throw the records out. Throw whatever you need to out.
Sure.
You come into this, depending on who's hot, who's not, what's going on. I mean, I don't think Columbus will pull it out, but I have an inkling that it could go 7, and they could. The gut is usually right. Jordy, as you know, me and you have talked recently. The gut has been right.
Trust the gut.
It's
Trust
funny.
Fungus.
No, it's true, and it's funny you say that because it's just one of those things where down the stretch, Tampa didn't rest their guys for a reason. This exact reason that Jared's talking about. They played them not only to get the record, the win record, but they played their guys in the points record. They played their guys. Tampa did to keep them fresh, to keep them in shape, to keep them with that competitive edge. And down to the very last game when they played the Bruins on the last day of the season, both teams played all their starters the entire game, and it was just. With the exception of Vasilevsky for Tampa, but it was just a funny, weird environment because no team could gain anything by playing their big studs and guns. But Tampa really stayed sharp down the stretch, whereas you could argue Columbus backed themselves in and squeaked in there in the last week or so. But you're right, before that last week and bump that they had there, Bobrovsky was playing out of this world.
Yeah. Do you think it makes a difference, too? I know he was banged up a little bit, so that's part of the lower number of games. But the fact that he played 12 less games this year, do you think that makes a difference for Vasilevsky? A little more rest throughout the season?
Yeah, and I think their backup had...
yeah, he had a pretty solid year, too.
Yeah, he was playing unbelievable, and they didn't need him, right? They didn't need him to go out and win games as much as they did last year, and I think it worked out for them.
Yeah, their backup went 21-5. Yeah, so pretty solid there. So Jared, you have Tampa Bay in 7.
My gut is telling me Columbus in 7.
All right, done. Okay. Trust your gut. Hey, way to be different, Jared. Good for you.
Put it on the board.
Way to be different.
Could be the difference maker. But let's move on to the other Atlantic Division series. The Boston Bruins, Greg's I was almost said Brew Crew, but the Bruins facing
the Brewer coming down the slide at the Garden.
They host for the second year in a row the Toronto Maple Leafs, and this last year it went to 7 games, and I think this might be even better. Greg, am I wrong to think that, or what do you think as the Bruins fan?
Not at all. I mean, I'm, the mood around Boston is people are quietly confident in that. The talk is, Boston has Toronto's number, blah blah blah. But then, they say Tampa has Boston's number, so everyone's sort of not overlooking Toronto, but knows this is going to be a grind out series. Me personally, I am very fearful, but at the same time, having home ice, the way the Bruins have played, if the Bruins, and this is going to be a much later, deeper, just a comment that I'm going to make now, but we can get into later, but going into the playoffs, points, all that stuff, like Jared said, regular season doesn't matter, but the Bruins really have positioned themselves as if Tampa doesn't win, the Bruins are going to win. And that's really a testament to the core of this team, Bergeron, Pastrnak, Marchand, the fact that both Pastrnak and Bergeron were out at various points in the season. This team still got the amount of points they did and performed the way they did all year really, really led to that. But my point is that this matchup, Boston-Toronto, rematch of last year, like you said, goaltender advantage has to be Boston. Bruins advantage has to be Boston.
Yep.
The forward talent, total talent, probably goes to Toronto, but the depth in terms of 4 lines, you could argue goes to the Bruins just because of some of the moves they made. But it comes down for me because Bergeron and Tavares are going to cancel each other out. So it comes down to me to the second line for each team, the Matthews versus the Krejci. And I love Austin Matthews, American hero in the future and now, but I'm going to have to go with, obviously, homer pick. I'm going to have to go with the Bruins second line over Toronto second line in 7 games. I'm going to hate game 7. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's my pick as well. But yeah, I just think, like you said, I think the Bruins just have a little more depth, and I think the moves they made give them that advantage. Sure, some of the firepower at the top for the Maple Leafs are going to help them out. They're going to, give them goals. They're going to make the Bruins really work for it, but their defense can be lacking. We talked about the penalty minutes in the last series. Toronto takes a lot of penalties, and the Bruins capitalize on it. Sure, the Maple Leafs do too, but the Bruins are a pretty disciplined team. So I think special teams make the difference here, but I still think it goes to 7, and I'm excited to see that.
I hate Brad Marchand with the fucking passion. He's a hell of a player. I want to see Patty Marleau do well in this. They rested him. It was just to hear the Toronto media giving shit because he was resting up and all that. It's like, come on, it's Patty Marleau. Once his skates are no longer good, since Reebok doesn't make them anymore, he's going to have to retire. That's number one because they just don't make them.
Good stopping point.
Gonna have get a piece of scrap metal out,
dude. He's gonna be coming to me for my old green Octane that I have here sitting across the room. That shit was good in high school.
Yeah. My green graphs.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, those things are beat up.
Oh. Boys,
anyway.
I think this is a 7. I don't think the Leafs are experienced enough to pull it out.
It's a good point, too.
I really think it's going to take a lot out of Boston for the next round. I just, I'm going to say it's Boston in 7. Greg, I'm going to be right there with you. It's one of those where if it's a game 7 for anybody, you're on pins and needles, and you're probably hoping that you don't crap yourself halfway through or miss something. It's just how these games go. So I'm going to go with Boston in 7.
No, and it's tough. It's tough because game 7 is always it's like the March Madness. Not always you don't always get the best team winning because it really comes down to a fluke, whatever, to get a fluke goal, a fluke something, a fluke bounce that changes it. But no, I think ultimately the Bruins, like you said, the depth, but the fact that they had injuries all year really
still
allowed
had 107 points.
Exactly, and it really allowed their guys, their backups, they're not backups, but some of their 3rd and 4th line guys and 3rd and 4th D pairs guys to get playing time and allow them to build that confidence throughout the season, because they were playing significant minutes. And like Jordy mentioned, they got their power play got significantly better from last year. So I know we all predicted Boston in 7, but I just wanted to get that last point in so we reassure myself more than anyone else.
I don't know. It's fair. It's fair enough. And I mean, I think too, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, they were down like 3-1 in game 7 last year and still grinded out like a 6-3 win over Toronto.
Yeah. It ended up being they ended up winning by 3 or 4. Yeah.
Yeah, it was something like that, but they were down. And I think that's just what the Bruins do. Like you mentioned, they did it quite literally in terms of injuries and having next man up mentality. But I think that they're never out in any playoff game. And if they want to score, they can. If they want to shut you down and not make you score, they can do that too. And I think, like you said, they've had Toronto's number all year. And I think, I think it's still the playoffs, like Jared mentioned before, throw the records out. But I think ultimately Boston can prevail.
Let's move on. What's next?
Yeah, let's move on. Atlantic Division champions, the Washington Capitals, hosting. Excuse me, the former Atlantic. Thank you, Jared. The Metropolitan Division champions.
Patrick Division, if you really want to go with it.
We could, yeah, we could go with that. Except, I think the Whalers were a Norris or an Adams Division team.
They were.
If we're going, from back in the day. But the Capitals hosting the now Carolina Hurricanes, who do sometimes rock the Hartford Whalers jerseys. Carolina Hurricanes, probably the story of the season, a team that everybody kind of thought what were they doing? They traded away a number of different guys to Buffalo, to I believe Calgary, and still made the playoffs. Have become this incredible story with their celebrations and whatever the hell goes on there. The Capitals, business as usual. Another number 1 seed out of the Metro, despite a new coach, guys getting suspended, guys getting banged up. Boys, what are your thoughts coming into this? Jared, we'll kick it over to you.
Excuse me as I chew on popcorn here.
Pulling the Matty D.
No, I'm pulling the Greg. I know he eats with a knife and fork usually, so.
No, that's Matt.
Yeah, it's Matt. Matt cuts his food.
We walked in our little threesome here, and last time you were eating like gabagool or something. Like I don't know what's going on. Now, in all seriousness, though, let's start with the best storm surge that I saw all year. It was the duck hunt one.
Oh yeah,
that was primo.
I like the home run. And maybe it's just because I love baseball so much. The home run derby one was great.
Greg, what'd you like?
I mean, the basketball, the props were nice, but
yeah, the basketball one was good.
I'm a classic guy. I kind of like the team bowling where everyone was involved. They threw the helmet, everyone fell down.
All right, well, I filibustered enough. Let's move on. Quote unquote, the bunch of jerks from Raleigh. Thanks, Don Cherry, old man yelling at cloud.
Bunch of jerks.
Boys, I say this maybe goes 5 games. The only way it couldn't is Ovechkin crossing the sauces or he doesn't get a Dr. Pepper on the bench during the game. I mean, the Capitals just have the staying power. When you're the defending Stanley Cup champs, as I know, as the last back-to-back champs, I don't really see the Capitals losing the series. Carolina doesn't have the goaltending where, like Columbus over Tampa Bay. I just really feel it's a very young Carolina team. They could, as my pap would say, a blind pig finds an acorn every once in a while, but I highly doubt it. I mean, Todd Reardon is a good coach. There was a reason why he went after our boy, who's the Islanders coach now,
Trotz. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see this series going more than 5, and it's going to be the Caps.
Yeah, I agree to a certain amount. Their goalie play was pretty solid. Yeah. Their goal scoring was what concerns me a lot, and that's where I think this is going to be a difference. The Capitals can score at will. Obviously, we know what Ovechkin can do, but there's a lot of different guys on that team that can go any which way for them. Special teams could be a difference maker here. The Capitals are not too good when they commit penalties. They don't commit them that often, but their penalty kill stinks. Carolina, pretty good at killing penalties, but again, they're not very good at scoring, whether on the power play or in even strength. They're 16th in goals for, 7th in goals against. So I think they could push this to 6, which is what I'm going to go with, but I still think it's the Capitals.
Yeah, no, for me, it's experience weighs out, right? We talked about it with the last couple series. And a Capitals team that started out so terribly and found their way somehow back on top in the end really is a true talk about how talented this team is and how they know how to flip the switch and they know how to turn things on at the right time, and they certainly have done that here at the end of the season. You know, Carolina is a nice story, but I personally will be so pumped when they are no longer in the playoffs.
So what do you got them in? What do you got the Capitals in?
6. I'm gonna Carolina's a tough out. I mean, they do have talent. Their goalie has been playing well, and they do have a good mix of old and new. So and then obviously the stalls are the stalls, but I'm gonna go 6.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
The closest I'm going with Carolina is listening to James Taylor singing in my mind. I'm going to Carolina.
I mean, I know you said throw the record book out, but what bodes well for you, Jared, is that Washington swept the season series. So looks like they also got their number 2.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for Carolina, they've had a season. I mean, storm surge and everything. You're the defending Stanley Cup champs. As much as Tampa Bay has a lot to prove, the bullseye is on your back. It's like 1 and 1A. It's Capitals and then it's Tampa Bay.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like hockey is has such a different vibe of the hangover of it, which is very literal for the Capitals this year.
Oh, he's still drunk.
Yeah, he's still hammered, which I mean, it probably just makes him better. But I mean, to be one and done in the NHL playoffs, it's not like where the Super Bowl champion loses in the first round or the runner-up doesn't make it. There's an expectation to be had when you're the defending champ, and in today's day and age, second round is where you got to make it at the very least.
It's weird you talk about defending champions and runners-up not making it because the Patriots won, then they went back the next year, lost, and then went back the next year and won again. So
yeah. The Patriots are the exception to the rule, but
doesn't really translate to different sports. But no, I mean, it's like I said, they rested in the beginning of the year. They got lucky with Pittsburgh having so many injuries all year. They got lucky with the fact that Carolina and the Islanders really overperformed and shouldn't be where they are. And they got lucky with the fact that Columbus, half their team didn't care until they traded for some big guys. So they're lucky, meaning that their slow start really didn't hurt them as much as it should have. But that, like I said, they've turned it up at the right moment, and this is really everyone's just waiting to get to the next round for Washington when they really have to play a good team.
Yeah, and let's jump right into that.
Segue. Hold on.
Oh, all right.
Mr. Segue over here. Greg talking about how the Pats and the Sharks are getting their rings tomorrow. What was the last city to have 2 sports teams receive championships in the same year?
Boston.
No, it was the Penguins and the Steelers, you dumb shit.
Was it 2009? Was that the last time? I feel like Boston had to have done it in the last 10 years.
We did it. We did it in 2009.
Yeah, there was Greg. There was no 2013. There was nothing when the Red Sox won.
The Bruins won in 12.
Yeah. No, they won in 11.
Right. The Patriots lost in 11. And thanks for rubbing that one in.
We're rubbing it out again. There it is.
Yeah.
Hey-o. But no, I mean, this year would be the last time it happened, Jared. So this would be the last city to do it.
All right. Side, Islanders and Penguinis. I'm getting another beer. Start us off, Jordy.
Yeah, so I'm going to be very, very blunt with this. This is going to be the most boring series in the first round. I think.
Really,
the Islanders is a great story. They had Pajama Boy and all the shit where they made fun of him and made fun of Tavares and all that, and the the fucking Bobby Axelrod guy yelling at Tavares in the penalty box. Great that their defense has been nice all year. They had some goalies that Greg, you and I have talked about a number of times who have really had a good story throughout the year. Cannot really score a ton of goals against a Penguins team that you mentioned was banged up, but still managed to score 273 goals. Different goalie injuries throughout the year that you and I have talked about, Greg. You and I have talked about, Jared. I think that's going to be fine for the playoffs. I think the Islanders might win game one, first game back at the Coliseum in the playoffs, a big emotional night. I wouldn't be surprised if the Penguins go win the next 4 and win it in 5. And if the Penguins win game 1, I would not be surprised to see them sweep this series. I think the experience they have bringing to the table against this young Islanders team completely outclasses them. I think when Matt Murray's on, he is nearly unstoppable in the playoffs, if we've seen in both 2016 and 2017. And last year, if the Capitals don't pull that one out, I mean, who knows what happens? So I think this is the Penguins, easily. Jared, you can rest easy in the next 2 weeks.
Greg, go first. I'm looking up something here real quick.
No, I'm gonna let you do you.
Official pick is Penguins in 5 for me, by the way.
Yeah, no. So the Islanders play good defensive hockey. They don't really let up odd man rushes, which is good because Pittsburgh, in an odd man rush situation with the talent that they have, is going to take advantage of that, and that's how they overrun teams is by really getting out in transition. Really, the Islanders have one offensive weapon in Barzal, and he can be isolated no problem. So if the Islanders were to win a game, it'd be 1-0. It'd be a grind out 2-1 maybe. And like you said, Jordy, rotating goalies works in regular season, but who are you starting? Are you starting Leonard or are you starting Greiss?
Exactly.
For me, I'd start Leonard, but see what you got. But
I would start Greiss because we know how to shoot on him because he was one of our former goalies.
And I just feel like
track.
Let the kid try it out. I mean, I think if you're the Islanders, it was a rebuild year anyway. Might as well see what a young kid can do in the playoffs. But Pittsburgh had they're only this low of a seed because of the injuries they've had all year. This team is way better than the record, and we always talk about Jordy with that talent, with Crosby, with Malkin, Kessel. This team is always going to be in the hunt, if not a chance to win every single year. And they really added some key guys in some key positions, specifically on defense, to help them finish the season strong and make the next step in the playoffs. Jordy, this is going to be my only sweep. I really don't like the Islanders, and I really like Pittsburgh every year in the playoffs. So I'm going Pittsburgh in 4.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
So, boys, longest streak in the NHL with 13 seasons making the playoffs.
Is it every year with Crosby? Has he not missed them once?
I'm not 100% sure on that, Jordy, but
okay.
I'll thank the Twitter machine for 13 straight years.
Huh.
It was a little touch and go for a while, as we know. I mean, Jordy, you saw my angst the last time you were here with 4.5 minutes left. Me seeing the Guineas lose to the Criers.
Actually, I only saw that online because I was having dinner with my siblings with a little stuff from my dad.
You were here. I felt you. Cheech
in person. Cheech, I love that kid.
So, 13 years in a row. It's wonderful. But I will have to say, before we even started, the Penguins have won already. If you've looked at the Penguins tweeted at the Islanders, "We will see you in Long Island." To which the Islanders repeated back, "It's on Long Island." And the Penguins went, "Oh, thank you for that clarification, but it's really confusing because we don't know really where you play."
True.
So,
granted, I think every home game will be at the Coliseum
for the first round. So, guys, the Islanders are going to squeak one out. I mean, Barry Trotz is going to go fucking ballistic at one point or another. And talk about Jack Adams winning the Coach of the Year. I mean, for where he should be the front runner for Coach of the Year.
I think him or Carolina.
Yeah.
For what,
as being someone humble brag here, who has, when I was with Senator Casey, I wrote the thank you letter from Senator Casey to Dan Bylsma when he won the terms.
Not a big deal.
That is a very inside baseball for everyone there.
Yes.
I think it'll be 5 games. The Islanders will squeak one out. I think the round after will be the Penguins and the Caps, and we'll get to that. We'll see how it goes. And one thing I didn't get to say with the Capitals series, and I think the wild card for the Caps moving forward in the playoffs is Tom Wilson.
Okay.
Is it going to be Jack? It's Jekyll or Hyde with him. Is he going to pull a boner and do something stupid? Granted, or no, true. Or like our wild cards of Genny Malkin. Is Malkin going to lose his fucking mind? So I say 5 games. I just think this year for the Islanders, the difference is the Penguins lost many man games, over 250 games to injury.
Oh.
All of those players are healthy now. And they're fresh.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, nail on the head right there.
Yeah, and that's the point that I was making too. Is just the Penguins really should be a much higher seed.
They got everything.
Yeah, and
fully loaded.
Yeah, and that's like why it said Washington really won the division, is because Pittsburgh was hurt, and there's no reason why Pittsburgh should be this low of a seed, and that's, like I said, everyone's just looking forward to another Pittsburgh Washington round 2 matchup.
Yeah. Good thing we aren't playing the Flyers, because Murray sees orange and black and he thinks convicts and can't play a lick. So I mean, I'm glad they're not in it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, when the Flyers win the season series, the last time it happened, the Penguins won the Stanley Cup. So you have that to look forward to.
Is that your prediction, Jordy? Are you calling it right now?
Jared, no, I'm just saying stats right there. Stats.
Jared, how many games do you think the Penguins need to take care of the Islanders?
5.
He said 5. Yeah, we got him. We got him on the board. Let's move to the West.
I went with a sweep.
Ooh.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see a sweep. I mean, I think there's a lot of emotion coming into game 1 there. So I think maybe the Islanders squeak that out, but then the Penguins say, all right, we let you get one. You know, playtime's over, boys.
I never understood that, because unless you grew up an Islander fan as a player, is the emotion really for you? Is it really the fans? You know what I mean? Like, people always, it means so much to the city of Philadelphia to win a title. It means so much. Do the players really care? No, they're just trying to win money. Unless they're from Philly, you know what I mean? Unless they're from Long Island, they don't give a shit.
Disney is having Disney Penguins coming out soon, so if that ain't a sign, I don't know what is.
I mean, it's a great point.
Is it March of the Penguins 2 with Morgan Freeman?
No, it's just Disney Nature Penguins, kind of like the chimpanzee movie.
Oh, is Morgan Freeman the narrator? This is important news.
I'm gonna go with a hard no. Start us off in the West, Jordy.
All right, so starting off in the West, we start in the Central Division. We mentioned it. The Predators won this division by a point at 100 points. They host the Dallas Stars, who, another team that was a little banged up throughout the year. They played 5 games this year. Nashville won 3 of 5 of them. Game 1 is Wednesday night in Smashville at Bridgestone Arena.
Oh, Smashville.
Jared, you want to start us off with this?
I would. The Dallas North Minnesota Stars, whatever the hell they are these days.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is one. I really feel that the Preds are going to take this out in 6 games. The Predators, 2 years removed, or 3 years, was it 2 or 3 years removed from the Stanley Cup Finals with the Queenies. Mm-hmm. It's one of those where I think this is going to be Lavi's last run. I think they get included in the second round. Flyers fans should be looking for Lavie to come back and be their head coach.
Love it.
Play with some jam back here. I really think if Pekka can do well, which he usually will, I think they're going to get this series, like I said, in 6. I just don't feel that the Stars have the firepower, being the team they are with Sagan. Give it another year or 2, then they'll be better off. But this year it's the Preds.
Greg, what say you?
So the only thing that scares me about the Predators is the fact that they have the worst power play of any playoff team left. Yeah, any playoff team, I should say. Despite all the talent that they had, I know regular season, Jared mentioned, doesn't mean anything, but Nashville's key or strength is their defense, and Dallas's strong point is really clearly their offense. But Dallas is a team that will try and get physical, and if they, I guess there's no advantage, I should say, for Nashville in the special teams division department, whereas Dallas has that advantage with their power play being so much better than Nashville's. I personally think Ben Bishop is going to outplay Rene in this series. I think Ben Bishop, with all those years, proved that he was a good playoff goalie. Yeah, he didn't win or whatever, but he proved that he can handle it. It certainly wasn't his fault that their team lost. The only way Dallas wins this series is with top performances from Sagan and Jamie Benn, and I think they get that. I think it's going to go 7. I think it goes all the way because at the end of the day, I think Nashville just has more depth and has top to bottom more talent. So I think that they ultimately win in 7, but I think it's going to be a much closer series than what people are predicting.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's going to be pretty close. I think, Ben Bishop had a pretty good year. Khudobin had a pretty good year as their backup goalie. But they are a really top-heavy team, Dallas is. And defensively, I mean, a lot of that came from their goalies. Special teams, they do have the edge on Nashville. But, I think in the playoffs, in that barn down in Bridgestone Arena, it gets loud. The people love it. And I think...
Yeah, but Dallas is known for having a great atmosphere as well.
That's true. That's true.
Advantage.
That's a very good point. And I agree with you, it goes 7. I mentioned at the top, I think it's going to be a really low scoring, intense game, or intense series rather. And I think there's going to be a lot of overtime in this, but I think Nashville ends up pulling it out. I'm going to say in 7 as well, Greg.
Yeah, I'm agreeing. I ultimately, it's just like you said, the depth really is going to win out in the end. But I would not be surprised if Dallas wins this series simply because Nashville came into the playoffs not hot. It came in very cold, and you could chalk it up to whatever it may have been, Olding or whatever. But I think Bishop has the advantage over Rene in terms of comparing goalies. So I really think this series goes 7.
I can't go against Lindsey Vonn, boys.
Nice.
It's a fair point. Fair point there.
American hero.
Let's keep it moving, though. We got the other division in the Central. We got the Winnipeg Jets hosting the St. Louis Blues in what could possibly be another high-scoring series. The Blues are one of the only teams in NHL history to make the playoffs. I believe the third. When they were in last place after January 1st. And Winnipeg comes in, same old for them. A lot of firepower. Not as great defensively as we'd seen last year, but still offensively just a machine. Jared, we're going to start with you on this series. What are you thinking coming in?
The Blues. For them to be at last place in NHL and now to make the playoffs, they got a lot to prove. And it's going to be a tough series with the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, it's I think this goes 6. It's one of those where you really have with the Blues, they have something to prove. Mr. O'Reilly, with him being there, I think the Blues pull this series out, to be quite honest with you. I think they get to the second round. I don't see them going out of the second round. But I just have a feeling like for what they've done and what they've overcome, they can get it here. And it's going to be tough, but I think it's a 6-game series.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jared. I think St. Louis pulls this out. Jordan Binnington, their goalie, is white hot, and I think he's going to make a difference in this series. I know Winnipeg can put up the numbers and everything, but I think O'Reilly, Tarasenko, Braden Shen having a bounce back year as well. Really a second good year in St. Louis. But I think guys like Pietrangelo, Tyler Bozak, who came over this year, guys who didn't even get across 50 points, but still were able to get double digits in goals. I think they could have big series for them, and I think that can certainly help out in grinding down Winnipeg. So Jared, I actually agree with you. I'm gonna go with St. Louis in 6 as well. Greg, what about you, my man?
We lost Greg.
No, I was waiting for the cue. Teed up. The advantage that I think Winnipeg has is their power play really rivals Tampa with being one of the best in the league. And Winnipeg down the stretch was certainly sluggish, and I think part of that has to do with them putting it on cruise control. And can they flip that switch? Is it easy as a team for them to flip the switch? But they really look sluggish coming down to finish the season. As you mentioned, Jordy, St. Louis was the complete opposite of that. Best record since January in world hockey. But home ice advantage, I think it's huge, as you mentioned, and the crowd energy that you really get from both bases. But Winnipeg with the whiteout and all that. This, for me, was the hardest to pick. For me, it was either Winnipeg in 7 or St. Louis in 6. And ultimately, I want to say talent of Winnipeg wins out, but I think I'm gonna go with you know what? You guys said St. Louis in 6. I'm gonna go opposite. I'm gonna say Winnipeg in 7.
All right.
And we're gonna get the Winnipeg-Nashville series again.
All right.
Yeah, the absolute war that would turn into.
Absolutely.
But let's move over to the Pacific Division in quite possibly the Wild Wild West, if we're being honest with these two series. Let's start with Calgary and Colorado. Jared, you talked about this at the top. We'll start with you again on this, because I think this is going to be a lot of fun, as you mentioned.
Yeah, this is going to be a series that you got one team that knows how good they are and one team that doesn't really know how good they are. And I'm talking about Calgary, then I'm talking about Colorado. It's been a season where I just don't know how to put it. I really feel that it's going to be a very fun series. It's going to go 7 games. Calgary is getting to that precipice where they're going to hit that top. I mean, my neighbors right over here, Kieran and Amanda, they know Johnny Hockey. They grew up with him. Her brother played with him. Chicho played with Johnny Hockey. I think Calgary pulls it out in 7. But don't sleep on Colorado. I think they could get hot and just figure out what the hell's going on when it comes to it. But I feel Calgary coming in, it's really going to be a fun series to watch, because you really have 2 young teams that really don't know their potential, and they're going to come into it in the next 2 to 3 years.
Sure. Greg, what do you think?
So last year we talked about Colorado, how they snuck into the playoffs, and we said, oh, this would be a good experience for the young guys and blah, blah, blah. And this year they snuck into the playoffs again, but they're that much older, right? They have that much more experience, and McKinnon is that gross of a player, right? Ultimately, I think Calgary all year has proven that they're as good of a team as advertised, and I think the playoffs will be no different. They have that physical edge with some of their big defensemen that they have, as well as some of their forwards. Some guys that come to mind would be obviously Kachuk and then their big defenseman Hanifin there. But I think that ultimately Calgary talent depth. We've been talking about the other series. I think that's the real the difference and the divider. I think Calgary wins this easily, or 5 or 6. But I do think Colorado's chance would be the fact that they do have that experience that they didn't have last year.
Yeah, that's a fair point. They have Philip Grubauer as their backup goalie, who we remember he really helped out with the Capitals last year and helping to pick up Braden Holtby and at certain points in the playoffs last year. And Vermarlov has been pretty awesome for him. He's closer to 500 this year at 2019. But we talked about it a little bit with Colorado. They had those top 3 guys. The rest started to really turn it on. Tyson Barrie's having himself a hell of a year out, and as an offensive defenseman. But like you mentioned, Greg, I mean, Calgary can just turn it on, and it's hard to go against them with what they have. And I'm gonna go with them in 6, but I think between Goudreau, Monahan, Kachuk, Giordano, who's also having an awesome year back at defense, Backlund, who's a pretty big pickup for them. I mean, they can really flex their depth. I'm gonna go with them in 6 there.
Yeah, great pick. Goudreau is a 2-time Kobe Baker.
Was he really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, stud.
Where'd he go? Where'd he go to college?
Boston College. Won the national championship like 3 times, at least twice.
Damn. Was he on those Cam Atkinson teams?
No, he was. He played with Hayes.
Oh shit! Yeah, those some talented teams there. Greg, you had him in 6 for the.
I have him in 5.
You have him in 5. Ooh, all right, little succession there. You had him in 7, right, Jared?
I had him in 6, or actually, 7. Excuse me, 7.
Okay, all right, yeah. Let's move on. The final series, like we mentioned, this is probably the other most exciting series out there. San Jose and Vegas, a rematch of last year's second round, where Vegas won in 6 games, a part of that Cinderella run in their first season to the Stanley Cup Finals. They split their 4-game series this year, and kind of a team, a tale of 2 teams that really needed to prove themselves. Vegas wanted to show it wasn't a fluke last year, and San Jose had a lot of expectations coming in on paper, and if not for some injuries, if not for some defensive woes, might have been able to live up to them, and if not for Calgary being awesome. Greg, since we've started with Jared so much in the West, we're going to start with you here. What are your thoughts on this series?
So first initial thought is that both these teams, just based on this season alone, not looking at history or anything like that, just based on this season alone, both teams really are going for broke, really trying to take advantage of the last couple of years they have with some contracts and some of their guys. So they're really going to win now. And the Stone in terms of in terms of Vegas getting Stone from Ottawa last year or 2 years ago when Stone was with Ottawa in the playoffs, absolutely was just a pest for the Bruins to handle, and really a guy that is playoff tested. And I think a guy like that is really the difference maker in a series like this. Marc-Andre Fleury is obviously going to be the reason why, in my opinion, that Vegas wins ultimately, just because I think the goalie advantage is crazy in favor of Vegas. I think everyone is for me, the reason why I'm going Vegas in such an easy in 5 is my opinion, is because for San Jose it's the same story, different year, right? It's a team that is always there but never is going to do anything. You could argue the Capitals were like that until last year, but the difference is with Carlson, their big addition, really not playing the last 2 months of the season, and now they're saying he's going to be ready. For me, that still says that he's going to be hurt. For me, that still says he's not going to be 100%. So I just think that this is going to be the same script for San Jose, just different year, in that a team that has all talent, but they underperform in the playoffs. And I think Vegas easily wins the series in 5. It'll be a grind, but I think Vegas takes it.
All right. Jared, what do you think there?
I agree with Vegas at 5. You can't go against Lafleur. I'm still a homer with him. I'm glad he did well last year and just throughout the year. And it's really one of those, San Jose is a league worst goaltending. That alone with the lowest team save percentage in the NHL. It's one of those where you have all that. I'd love to see Joe Thornton get there, win the cup. I mean, it's Joe. He has a great beard at this time of the year. I mean, if he scores 4 goals, we may or may not have heard he'll whip his dick out if he ever scores 4 goals in a game. I just don't think that the Sharks can overtake the Golden Knights. I don't think the Golden Knights will go out of the second round this year. However, I really think that the Golden Knights in 5. I can't say more than that.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting how Fleury steps up like he has, and even their backup goaltending. Malcolm Subban may not have had it with his record, but he certainly is an outstanding goaltender, as he's shown. Like Greg mentioned, their defense is pretty solid. Mark Stone him versus that offense. San Jose has 5 different 30-goal scorers. They were second in the league in goals scored with nearly 290 out there. and this is going to be a ton of fun. I think it goes all the way to 7. I don't think it's as open and shut as you guys think it is. I think the way that these two teams match up, the army of 4 lines that Vegas can roll out, I think is going to make this series just tough for San Jose and making them really work for it. And I think home ice is going to be absolutely huge, which is why I'm going to go with the Golden Knights as well in 7 games. I'd love to see the Sharks pull this thing out, but I really think that I think Fleury steps it up in Game 7 there. Excuse me. It's gonna San Jose hosts this, but I think Fleury steps it up in Game 7. Excuse me there.
Jordy, great pick. Second round prediction or overall prediction, Jordy. I know I'm not going to hold you to it because we'll do round by round, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
But just based on the 16 teams that are in it now, who do you think ultimately comes out of the West, the East, and wins it all?
Whoa.
I think out of the West is going to be the Calgary Flames.
Oh.
Oh.
I think that Central Division is going to beat itself up. And the only way that it's not is if St. Louis somehow just breezes through Nashville. Of course, pick St. Louis over Winnipeg. If it's Winnipeg, Nashville, I think that whoever gets to the Western Conference Final, as it's been the last 2 years, is going to be tired. I mean, we just saw 2 years ago when Nashville won it, they faced an even more tired team of Anaheim, who had to get through a Edmonton team that was, playing to the best of their ability with the best player in the world. So I think Calgary gets it there. I mean, their offense has the talent to do it. Out of the East, Greg, I'm going to go with the Bruins. I think that they have the ability to do this. I think they finally get over the hump that is Tampa Bay. And I think the winner out of the Metro, whether it's Washington or Pittsburgh, I think the Bruins have the depth to match up with them well. So I think the Bruins will ultimately win the cup over the Calgary Flames. That is my pick right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
hard for Greg to be upset with that.
What a bold prediction. I mean, I have no words, and I don't want to go next because I don't want to.
I went pretty chalk for the first round pick. I had to shake it up for the
I like it. Jared, can you go next while I recover from Jordy just
Yeah, I don't even know what to say right now.
Giving Greg the near Jordan Spieth.
Shit. I don't think the Brew Crew is going to win.
Okay.
Man, this is I'm flipping through ESPN as we're talking here because I said that the Golden Knights won't get out of the second round, so I can't pick them now.
I mean, I said they were hosting Game 7 of the first round, so we can just say what we want about them.
I could say the Calgary Flames. We could dust off the Red Hot. If you've ever seen that video on YouTube when Gary Roberts and the rest of them are singing how the Flames are red hot on YouTube, take a look at that video.
Nothing beats Ram It the first time the Rams were in LA.
Ooh,
Greatest team song.
This is it. The Red Hot is strong. I don't know who their defenseman or their centerman was that had the mustache, but he was.
Was this in their cup run like 30 years ago?
Yes. Gary Roberts was the young Scary Gary at that point.
Scary Gary.
I could see, and I'm not being a homer when I say this, I could see Calgary and Penguins.
I could see that too. I could see the Penguins making a run.
And I could see the Penguins in 6.
Yeah. I think the thing I think we're probably both getting at, Jared, is Calgary's youth is probably going to show eventually.
Oh, absolutely.
I think they have the ability to make a run, which is why it's reach to think of them coming out of the West. But eventually it's gonna catch up to them. I think.
I think with that it's between Matt Murray and Casey DeSmith.
Yeah.
My boy Jari
for the Conn Smythe, you mean?
No. Just between those two, if you put them out, Jari's not going to make it up. My namesake.
Okay.
So I think that between Casey and Matt,
is he a black ace for the Penguins?
I think he could be.
Oh, that'd be fun. Can you just show up at a bar in on Long Island, excuse me, and just say you're Jari and just try to get some side kills from it?
I mean, I'd probably get the Bryce Harper before the Jari.
Is it Bryce Harper or Aaron Judge? I need you to clarify this. 'Cause 2 years ago it was Aaron Judge, and now it's Bryce Harper.
Oh no, it was never Aaron Judge. It was never Aaron Judge.
I just like to say all rise when you were hitting.
I don't have the gap.
That's true. You do not. You have nice teeth.
My grandfather though had the gap. Aaron Judge and him could be siblings. Him as a youth, but no. All rise was just for the sheer fact of it. But the Bryce Harper at McGillen's, when I had the beard, a guy looked at me and was like, "Yo, you look like Bryce."
You got to get the bow down, Jared. You got to get it. You got to get that ready.
All right, this is getting off the rails here.
You needed some time to recover. We were filibustering.
I think you came in your pants, man.
I mean, I might as well have. No, honestly, I think it's. I hate the Calgary pick. I think Vegas is really going to come out of the West. I don't think Calgary is really going to get challenged. I think St. Louis and Winnipeg are just going to really beat each other up, and then Dallas, Nashville, again, going to beat each other up. And I really think Calgary is just going to get absolutely steamrolled by any of those physical teams in every other series except for Colorado. Is the only non-physical team in the West. So for me, I think Vegas comes out of the West again. And I go back and forth between Tampa and Boston. And here's the thing, Jordy, and this will appease Jared as well, but if the Bruins beat Tampa somehow in the second round, and if my predictions are that way, if Boston wins the second round and beats Tampa, then that means that it's Washington and Pittsburgh versus the Bruins. And the Bruins really do not play well against Washington and really go 50-50 with Pittsburgh. So as much as I want to say Boston, because they are, if not Tampa, it's going to be Boston, in my opinion, coming out of the East. I think that if Boston does beat Tampa, you're asking them to beat Toronto. You're asking them to beat Tampa Bay, which are two unbelievably hard teams and teams that have the hardest record or the best records outside of the Bruins. And then you ask them to beat either Washington or Pittsburgh 3 straight series, and then they have to beat a Vegas Golden Knight team. That's just too difficult of a road, in my opinion. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to say Tampa Bay cruises by Columbus. They beat Boston in the second round, and then I could see Pittsburgh beating Tampa in the finals and really going Pittsburgh and Vegas. So, Jared, you're not far off there. Pittsburgh Vegas, which would be an unbelievable storyline, which would be great for
Murray and Fleury
and all that jazz. But I just think Tampa's on a collision course with destiny this year, and I have Tampa winning it all, but part of me is rooting for Pittsburgh. If not the Bruins, part of me is rooting for Pittsburgh and Vegas just to duke it out. And like you said, Murray versus Fleury.
That would be a fun storyline to follow.
I feel when you look at Tampa Bay, it's like the '93 Pens all over again. Like with Yager, Francis, and Lemieux. I think Taka was on that team too. They were not supposed to lose. I mean, they were the precursor of what Tampa Bay did this year, and they got shit canned in the second round. So,
yeah, Detroit, who won 62 games in '96, they did not make the Western Conference Finals. Granted, the other team that did win the Stanley Cup in the Montreal Canadiens in the '70s, but that was also the '70s Montreal Canadiens. So,
well, I mean, I heard the point the other day on another podcast. It was 62 games then is different than 62 games now.
That's a very good point. Yeah, no salary cap back then versus a cap now, where Tampa's been able to make a number of different moves and very smart trades as well in terms of acquiring assets here and there and making different salary moves when they can. Very smart with their money.
Yep, exactly.
Jordy, Jared. I mean, no, there has not been a smarter trio to predict the NHL playoffs than the three of us. I'll tell you that.
I agree, man.
We it's funny though because like in only a couple of series did all three of us agree, so that's pretty good. And we had pretty different picks for who's going to win it all, and
all three of us went east over west.
Yeah, the Eastern Conference is just better.
Yeah, thank God.
You know, it's just like in baseball. You know, American League's just better, and just like in football, the AFC is just better. You know, something about these
about America.
Right, Jordy.
Versus National.
Jordy, we're going to put you on the spot here. Who's going to be the Flyers' next head coach?
Hey-o.
I don't think it's going to be Scott Gordon.
No, I don't either.
Yeah, I need to see who's open out on the market there before I make any sort of pick. That's an off-season podcast. We can talk about the orange and the black and the bevy of talent that's coming out of the queue and whatnot.
Sounds like a defer. I don't know any coaches' names.
That's true. I don't know who's available right now. So yeah, you called me out on the right thing.
I'm saying, Labby boys, you heard it here first at 10:31 at night on 4/8. It's going to be Laviolette.
All right, stump the Jordy. Stump the Jordy.
He's stumped.
Stump the Schwam.
Yeah. More happy the Phillies won tonight.
That was good to watch.
It's great to watch. Mm-hmm. Going tomorrow night, $1 dog night, boys. Very excited for it.
Greg, over under on dogs Jordy eats.
Over 4. No, over 3.5. So 4.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say Cinco.
Yeah, 5 sounds about right. 5 sounds about right. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Who are you going with?
Beer for Lent. Going with a bunch of people we play hockey with. So our boy Chicho will be there. We'll have to try to get him to like announce an inning of baseball, guys. You know, Jared, you do the voice.
I did not get the invite to that. I had played hockey.
You're not on our group chat because you didn't play in the winter.
Oh, I've been booted.
You didn't play in the winter. It started in the winter.
I came for a game.
For a game.
Hey, Jared, is there anything worse than being on a group chat with a guy who doesn't have an iPhone?
It's on a WhatsApp is what we're using.
Okay, that's because you don't have an iPhone.
WhatsApp either.
Yeah.
I'll fire kickball tomorrow at 8 and 8:45. Anywho, but Chicho's the man to be like, yo, I'm here at baseball with my boys. I've been on a podcast before. Thank you for allowing me to do this. This is
soft
here
comes the poetry. I like it.
Softly hit into center field.
Man, I just like how he hit that. Like it was cool. I love Chicho too. Don't get me wrong. He's my boy. He's my man.
Oh, man. All right. Well, before this gets too off the rails, anything else that we got? Any other bold predictions for the first round?
I think fuck it. Pittsburgh sweeping. Like I said before.
All right. Oh, no, you already had it. You already had that. I was going to update the board, but no.
But you know what?
I'm going to say Gritty's going to be brought up twice. I saw in a tweet today he's going to go on a diet over season.
If there's a prop bet on the amount of times Gritty gets brought up, I'm taking it.
0. Yeah. What a shitty fucking mascot.
2.
Oh, the best. Wait
a minute. What's the Bruins mascot?
It's a bear.
Yeah, a bear.
It's not a polar bear like they got in Toronto.
No, it's a black bear. Pretty sure his name is Blades.
Brown bear or a black bear?
It's a black bear. His name's Blades.
Blades the bear. He, if I remember correctly, he's a pretty good NHL threes player in NHL.
Yeah, he also does a great job. He was trolling people on the internet before Gritty was even a thought in Gritty's parents' mind.
Gritty doesn't have parents.
So some girl.
Are we ruining some kids' childhoods right now, trying to figure out how Gritty was made?
Some girl posted on social media. She put her hole through one of the one of the poles that sits in the bathroom. One of those support beams. She put her foot through it in the women's bathroom, and the Bruins followed up with a commercial of Blades repairing the pole with spackle and all that stuff, and it was just like please don't disrespect the Garden ever again. You've been officially banned. And there's just Blade shaking his head like, what are we doing?
Get out. Get out.
This is my nightmare. Let's go Bruins, Jordy. Honestly, it's I mean, I know we're not in baseball mode yet because we're in NHL playoffs, which is the most important thing. But tomorrow's opening day for the Red Sox, which is about 3 weeks too late after everyone else had their opening day. So sick, Major League Baseball. Good job.
The Cubs had theirs today too. So the Friendly Confines also got a late start.
Yes, and then the Red Sox get their rings. So and the Patriots get their rings. So
I thought you said they get their wings.
Yeah.
The fucking end of the It's a Wonderful Life over there.
Are they going to get fucking Red Bull, all of them?
Could you imagine Big Poppy on Red Bull?
Oh.
This our fucking city.
Dude, I mean, listening to the Buccos Cubs game today, the 10-0 shellacking of the Buccos.
Cubs needed to score some runs, man. They've been a rough start to the year for the Cubbies.
Lester pulled his hammy running around third.
Who did?
Lester.
Poor guy.
After he had another hit. He had a double. He had another RBI double. So his career average is over 100 now, I think.
Now he has an excuse for not being able to throw over to first. His hammy's hurt.
I mean, Tyon got hit. I think it deflected off a shoulder into his head, and then he got hit again in the same inning. The Cubs scored, I think it was 6 runs in the first inning.
I mean, my hatred for Francisco Cervelli,
Shut your mouth.
Whatever his name is, my hatred for him rivals that of, you could argue,
A-Rod?
No, A-Rod. A-Rod's the height of height. Let's see. Maybe. That's a great question. You could argue Judge. You could argue. Mussina. Mussina. I hated Mussina.
Moose. That's like hating Ronnie Coomer. You can't hate Ronnie Coomer.
Well, you must not be from Boston.
You're not from here.
Proud of it.
From here.
Proud of it, Jared says. Proud of it. Let's go Bees. Let's go Penguins. Let's get on a collision course for the Eastern Conference Finals, Bruins, Penguins. Flyers are obviously out until at least next year, so if not the year after that. Vegas, Fleury versus Murray. We need it. I need that title, and I need NBC is going to try and steal that headline, but we need to cite this exact thing when Jared tagged that, and Jared is officially copywriting that. So
Jared, go copyright it right now at 10:37 at night. Run.
We can officially get some residuals and get some ears on this pod. Outside of my roommate and I in Boston.
Well, boys, as always, I have to say when we get together, as I'm looking here at my Pittsburgh dictionary, so when you can understand Pittsburghese when you need it.
Speaking Pittsburgh with Jared, great segment.
You know, it's an absolute pleasure. I think this is going to be a great Stanley Cup Finals as we move through it with the first round, second round, and then things occur after that.
Nothing is better than the first round. Having a dual screen, nothing's better.
Let's go quietly into that good night, boys.
All right, that's going to do it. Thank you as always, boys. This was a ton of fun.
Yes.
And that's going to do it. Make sure, Greg.
Thank you. Go Bruins.
Everybody go like, share, subscribe to the pod. The Bullpen Card on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you get your pods.
Go Bruins.
Thunder BLG on Twitter. Thunderblog Sports on Instagram and Facebook. Greg, I thought you were going to try to sneak one in there. But for my guys, Greg Piatelli and Jared Barnes, have a great night, everybody, and we will talk to you soon.
Go Celtics.
Let's stay classy, Philly.